Morning, glory, evening, grace, brother. It's great to have everybody here back along with us with Temperance Awakening. And today will be our 22nd and last alcohol lecture in this series. As we said in the previous lecture, this will kind of be the last lecture where we put out some helpful information, but we will be saying a lot more with alcohol on here, at the present time. At this present time in the future, we will be putting up a lot more things to help people with alcohol addictions. And so in our last lecture here, going to be a shorter one, going to be looking at underage. Going to be looking at underage drinking. And so pretty just straightforward. Underage drinking means the consumption of alcoholic beverages by anybody under the age of 21 in the United States. And that's the minimum age in all 50 states to legally purchase alcohol, whether that's at retail stores, restaurants, bars, convenience stores, etc. And some states do have exceptions built into that law, at least previously some of these laws may have changed now. But the last time this research was really done, some married people under 21 could purchase alcohol. In 19 states, younger people could legally drink in certain limited circumstances, such as at home with their parents. And kind of previously, parents were almost never prosecuted in any state for serving alcohol to their own children in their own home. However, that's starting to change, though, in most states. Possibly all, but at least, probably the majority of the states we have in the U.S., adults are starting to be prosecuted more for giving their children alcohol because of all the issues, that are out there now with alcohol. Like some, people can recommend lowering the drinking age to 18 or 19, especially in those states that raised it in the late 80s. And they note that the legal drinking age is lower in just about every other country in the world, that's 16, 18, 19, or 20. And most democratic countries, like in Canada, actually in Canada, the provinces of Canada, they vary between 18 and 19. Like on the other side of that, though, those people who support the current legal age point, that legal age there of 21, point out that prohibition actually did, in fact, reduce the total amount of drinking and alcohol abuse. Of course, that's also people who believe in prohibition completely. And they claim that the age 18 drinking limit helps keep down the death toll from drunk driving car crashes. And that actually is what happened. The increase in the legal age to 21, which many states carried out in the late 1980s, was the primary reason for a dramatic decline in teenage drunken driving crashes. That decline translated to 1,000 fewer teenage deaths per year, putting the age back down to 18 or 19, which sent the wrong signal to the nation's kids. However, lots of these drinking laws, though, are not always enforced. Like in a 2002 law enforcement campaign in Montgomery County, Maryland, 38% of underage decoys were able to purchase alcohol. And other states have also reported similar findings. So, who are the young drinkers? And of course, even despite the law of having to be 21 to drink in the U.S., underage drinking is widespread at every age level across regional, gender, and ethnic lines. There are at least some underage people who engage in casual drinking or, maybe even binge drinking, and some people who are unfortunately alcoholics. And by the time kids reach the 18 to 20 age group, alcohol behavior doesn't differ much from that of adults. Like the National Household Survey on Drug Abuse questions a typical sample of Americans every year about drug and alcohol use among their family members. They total up the results by age, gender, race, and other categories and publish them in tables and in colorful charts. The alcohol use charts are very dramatic. They look like familiar pictures of the Rock of Gibraltar, a sharp rise on the left representing the underage groups up to a peak at age 21, followed by a gradual drop-off in the later years. 20-year-olds, last underage group, are among the country's heaviest drinkers. To be precise, the 2001 survey reported that 55.7% of all 20-year-olds had drunk at least one alcoholic beverage during the previous month. Not only did the majority drink, but 38.2%, nearly 4 out of 10, were binge drinkers. They had drunk 5 or more drinks on at least one occasion that month, and 14.5%, that's 1 in 7, were heavy drinkers, having 5 or more drinks on 5 or more days that month. And the younger age groups are reported as drinking a lot less alcohol. Only 2.6% of 12-year-olds, the youngest group counted in the survey, drank alcohol in the previous month, and only 1 in 1,000 of them were heavy drinkers. But the numbers, though, did rise pretty quickly from that low base each subsequent year. For example, slightly more than 1% of 14-year-olds are heavy drinkers, as are 2% of 15-year-olds, 4% of 16-year-olds, and 7% of 17-year-olds, and then a full 10% of 18-year-olds. As for the gender breakdown, almost the exact same number of boys and girls in the 12 to 17-year-old age group drank at least once during that month, that percentage being 17. The girls did drink less, although the overall level of intoxication may have been the same, since girls need fewer drinks to get drunk. Only 1.9% of girls in the 12 to 17-year-old age group were considered heavy drinkers, as compared with 3.1% of the boys. And, many educators and parents are shocked at these large numbers. However, drinking was even more common in the recent past. The National Institute on Drug Abuse has been following drinking trends among high school seniors since 1980. In 1980, 72% of seniors reported using alcohol during the past month, and 41.2% had binged. By 2000, the numbers had fallen to 50 and 30% respectively. Similar declines occurred among boys and girls, whites and blacks. Other researchers have found similar patterns. While alcohol and drug abuse seemed to decline among young people in the 80s, that decline continued at a slower pace in the 90s. And now looking at the risk of rapid progression. When people ask what you hope to be when you grow up, probably nobody's going to answer an alcoholic. But every year, teenagers who thought they could handle a few drinks fall into that trap. Every year, about 250,000 teenagers enroll in treatment programs for alcohol abuse. Unfortunately, experts believe that for every kid who signs up, several others need treatment and don't get it. Nationwide, the National Institute for Alcohol Abuse and Alcoholism estimates that between 5.2 and 5.5 million teenagers abused alcohol. Most of the kids entering treatment do not show the severe physical effects that long-term adult alcoholics do, but they're definitely addicted. The therapists who screen kids for addiction depend a lot on behavioral science, such as how often the patient gets drunk or how he or she manages relationships with others. Researchers have found that the younger kids are, when they start to drink, the greater their risk for rapid progression to alcohol abuse and addiction. And that's really common there for just about every substance. That's common for, like people that use tobacco, marijuana, drugs. The younger that you start, the more rapid progression that's going to be an addiction. So, in other words, it takes younger kids less time to get addicted than older kids or adults. Like in 2003, the American Journal of Psychiatry published a review of many recent studies showing that adolescents might be more prone to alcohol and drug addiction, since their brains change more rapidly in response to a new stimulus, such as alcohol. When kids drink heavily, even if they avoid actual addiction, they might be damaging their brain, according to other recent research. A 2002 article in the Journal of Studies on Alcohol reported that alcohol may interfere with brain development in adolescents, resulting in mild mental impairment. Alcohol-induced changes in the structure or size of the hippocampus, which is a key part of the brain, could cause lifelong memory problems. Kids who start drinking young are more likely to have alcohol and other adjustment problems throughout their lives. In 2003, RAND Health, an important research institute, reported the results of a 10-year study. People who begin to drink by the 7th grade tend to show employment problems, other substance abuse, and criminal and violent behavior by age 23. And of course, some of these people may have underlying problems that led to early drinking and later problems. Still, findings like these should make young people sit up and take notice. And so now look at this. What happens at 21, the age that people are allowed to drink? This is actually the peak drinking age for Americans. More people drink. That is 67.5% of 21-year-olds and Americans drink at 21. 48.2% of them binge at 21, and 17.8% of them are heavy drinkers at 21. And that's from the 2001 National Household Survey on Drug Abuse. And so, and that's just a problem, with alcohol altogether. More than half of all Americans have their first taste of alcohol before the legal purchasing age of 21. And unfortunately, too many of these underage drinkers have serious drinking problems, so it's no exaggeration to say that underage alcohol abusers are just putting their futures at risk. And so that concludes actually all of our alcohol lectures here. And we thank you so much for being with us and being attentive with us throughout all of these. Hopefully they were helpful to you. As we said, stay tuned as we put out other things about alcohol, helping people with alcohol addictions, as well as things about tobacco and pornography and like other sexual and immoral behavior as well. And so we'll see you next time. Until that, ever can the shadows flee away. I'm Dr. Coop, and I love you, and I appreciate you.